Welcome to Lawyer Boss Life.
Welcome to Lawyer Boss Life, the podcast where law firm owners learn to build profitable businesses and lead lives they love. I'm Alay, law firm growth expert and founder of Law Firm Success Group. I've helped hundreds of attorneys scale their firms, gain freedom, and take back their time.
And I'm Chelsea. I'm a law firm owner, entrepreneur, and toddler mom. I know it's possible to have an excellent income, work 40 hours a week or less, and take time off because that's what I do. Today, we're talking about something every lawyer wrestles with: pricing, hourly rates. Whether you're billing by the hour using flat fees or still unsure what to charge, this episode will help you price your services with confidence and strategy. And sometimes it's really just about trying out different things and seeing what works for you, the market you're in, and your clients. Like, why are so many lawyers chronically underpricing themselves?
Well, because they feel like the lower they can price themselves, the easier it will be to get clients. And
Mhm.
they're constantly feeling like they're competing on price against the competition. And some of that is true, but a lot of that is not. And once lawyers start to get confidence in why they're charging what they charge and what their services are worth to their clients, not to mention more clients, a lot of that can go away.
Yeah, I think that this is an interesting topic for many reasons because I don't think it gets easier the longer you're in business either. I remember when we were just opening and we were trying to figure out how to set our rates, and we were just looking at other colleagues of ours and what they were charging, and that's kind of where we started. And then slowly we started to shift. But every year when we talk about, should we increase our prices? Should we adjust our prices? It's a struggle. So, I can definitely see why so many people take the approach of not wanting to kind of shift themselves into inaccessible. So that's really hard. How do you encourage lawyers to shift their mindset to start really finding value in the services they provide and pricing it right?
You know what's so wild about this, and this might be a relatively recent phenomenon, maybe over the last 5, 10 years, but most of the clients we work with, when we work with them, one of the first things we do is we talk about how they're pricing their services.
Mhm.
And the first question I ask is, okay, when was the last time you increased your rates for new clients? Second question is, when was the last time you increased your rate for existing clients? And those are both kind of setup questions for the third one, which is, how much capacity do you actually have to take on additional clients? And I
Mhm.
get it. Like if you're just starting your practice and you're desperate for clients, you may not want to raise your rate. But if your practice is full, and that's most of our clients when they come on board, they already have a full or near full book of business. And so when you have a full book of business, that is oftentimes the best time to think about a rate increase because you're not going to lose existing clients necessarily, and even if you do, there's going to be more along the way because you don't really have capacity. You can afford to be choosy to bring on clients. And when you have that kind of power to say, you know what, I have a full roster, I can charge what I want, and I can work with the clients I want. I have the ability to say no to a client. That's when it really unlocks the ability to raise your rates and really charge what you're worth.
Yeah, I love that. And a lot of times I think, as the state bar as a whole, we get a lot of information about how do we make legal service accessible to everybody, more affordable. And so when some lawyers I talk to, they're struggling with increasing their rates because of this kind of
Mm.
social awareness we have as lawyers to the need to be accessible to people who really need legal services. And I actually find that if you increase your rates, you put yourself in that position because you do have a full book of business. You can actually make yourself more accessible to the people who simply cannot afford it. You can do more pro bono. You can do reduced rate services for the clients that, whatever metrics you want to use qualify, because you have a solid book of business that is paying your deserved hourly rate. We were actually able to take on more pro bono cases and reduce our rates for clients that make under a certain threshold for cases that we really wanted to take, cases we wanted to help. So you can actually do both, I think, by finding an hourly rate that is right for your business and meets the needs of your clients. And I think sometimes that's a missed opportunity for lawyers. Have you talked about those types of opportunities with any of your clients?
Yeah, we see that a lot where they've got some clients that are on very, very low fees, and we talk about why that is.
Mhm.
And they say, well, the client can't afford to pay more. And we get it. Like if you have an existing client and you have a fee arrangement with the client and they
Yeah.
can't afford to pay more, it really sucks to raise rates, right? We don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
But for new clients, when you're
Mhm.
already full with your book of business, the challenge really that I would give to my clients is okay, so earn enough money in your firm so that you can afford to provide pro bono services or heavily discounted services. Put yourself in a position to be able to give away what you do for free. And when you do that, you know you've built a successful law firm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm starting to slowly see for my business personally that we're right at that point where we get to start making those decisions, and controlling that is really powerful. And it's also very rewarding to say, hey, I've set up a successful business. I'm making enough money. I'm providing services to the clients that can't afford it, that now I get to pass on that benefit to people who can't, and who really need help. So I definitely think that works. The other thing, and I'm in family law, so hourly billing is pretty standard. Well, a flat fee is not something we see a lot, but different practices, that's pretty common. You see that a lot in like estate planning, and maybe some other types of transactional work. But how, with the different types of firms that you work with, what are the pros and cons you see of hourly billing versus flat rate billing that are important for all law firm owners to consider?
Yeah, it's a great question, Chelsea, because there's so many pricing models and billing models that are out there, right? You've got flat fee, you've got hourly, you've got contingency. And then you also have things like hybrid models where, you might charge some part of it on a flat fee and some part of it hourly, and then maybe there's a success fee if everything goes well, kind of a reward or a bonus for a job well done. Or maybe if you're in the M&A space, it's very common to take a percentage of the deal. So there's lots of different ways to price. You hit upon something really awesome, which is that oftentimes the market dictates how you're going to price. So you can imagine, Chelsea, if you had a family law firm and you went in with a flat fee model, like how would a client even process that if they're dealing with, hourly rate, that's the standard, and then um, a flat fee model shows up, that's going to be a pretty high flat fee, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, in I don't even know how somebody in family law specifically could price a flat fee divorce in
Yeah.
full like that. I don't know how you would do it. There's some other things, like even our firm is experimenting with some flat fee for limited services like drafting the petition, doing your disclosures, drafting the judgment, because you can make that very finite. But for a divorce altogether, I would find it nearly impossible for even us to predict. It's so different case by case.
It is, and it's different client by client. So
Mhm.
some clients love a flat fee because they know how much they're going to be spending.
Yep.
Other clients don't like it because they instinctively feel like they're paying for services that they're not going to use. They would rather pay for what they use. And so for them, they really appreciate the hourly model. So large part of this really goes down to client preference and then feasibility, right? Some practices, like family law, as you mentioned, it just doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
to do a blanket simple flat fee. Yes, you can do different things where you've got a hybrid model. That gets very complicated for a client. And so it just, certain practices lend themselves to it and certain ones don't. Certain clients like it and certain clients don't. And I think that's really important to keep in mind when you're setting up your pricing. And the last thing, one of the big mistakes we find, and this happens a lot in corporate law, one of the big mistakes we find is that the attorney is pricing a flat fee so that the client's hours are capped. So let's say a project would take anywhere from, I'm going to use an absurd example, right? 50 to 200 hours.
Mhm.
They're going to do the flat fee at 50 hours so that if they go over the 50 hours, the client doesn't get charged.
Mhm.
that's really doing a disservice to you as the billing attorney,
Mhm.
right? That's not how you want to set flat fees. You want to set flat fees so you make a decent profit on the job. And oftentimes, setting it based on your hours is completely the wrong approach. You want to set it based on the value of doing that work to the client. So if you're doing a transaction, and let's say that transaction might be worth, oh, I don't know, $2,000 to the client, priced it at $2,000. And then your job is like every other business on the planet. Your job is to deliver that service for $2,000 at a really high quality and at as low of a cost as you can, because the difference between what you're selling it for and what your cost to produce that product, that's your profit. And that's like every other business. And that's the awesome thing about flat fees, is then it takes a law firm and you can then run it like every other business that's out there. And there's a lot of really cool things you can do with it. But some practice areas lend themselves to it, and some don't.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's it's so very personal to the type of, not only the type of practice area that you're in, family law, what transactional estate planning, but it's also very specific towards your clients and the way that you practice. And so when people are trying to figure out, how do I raise my rates? I don't want to lose clients. I don't want to anger clients, but where do I start when saying, okay, what clients should I increase? Just new clients, my old client. It can be such a challenge to know exactly where to start. So what's the number one place you would recommend for law firm owners to start when they're thinking about increasing their fees?
Yeah, the easiest thing to do is to increase your rates for new clients. That's assuming you have a full book of business. So you've got an existing client load. And so you can be more selective on the new clients you bring in.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a full book of business, oftentimes the first place to go is still new clients, but that can be challenging. You're like, my gosh, I have capacity to bring on clients. I don't have enough clients. And you want me to go off and raise my rate? Like, forget it. So I understand that. But look at the clients who are at the lowest rates that you have. Oftentimes, maybe you haven't raised your rates on those clients in years and you
Mm-hmm.
are charging a way below market rate. I remember very vividly a client of mine was working with, so we're in California and this client's in the Bay Area. They were working with some clients in the Midwest and they'd been doing it for years. And I think they were charging, gosh, Chelsea, I think it was like $250 an hour, when the
Wow.
going rate in California, this was only a few years ago, the going rate in California was, 400 to 450 an hour. Um, so those clients in the Midwest were getting an amazing deal. So amazing, it was even less than market rate in the Midwest. So the
Mm.
first thing our client did was raise her rates for those existing clients. And it really helped her feel good about the services she provided. And it also helped her bottom line.
And so that's kind of the next piece, which is existing clients and communicating your pricing clearly and confidently so that they understand where you're coming from. Do you have any kind of suggestions on how to word that, how to communicate those price increases with current clients?
Yeah. Generally, it's not just sending them a letter, especially if this is the first time they're doing it.
Hmm.
Chelsea, you know this, right? Like,
Hmm.
clients need to be trained too. And so if you haven't raised your rates on your clients in a long time, sending them a, a rate increase letter out of the blue, they might take offense to that, especially if it's a really large increase and especially if the reason's not justified.
Hmm.
So oftentimes, if you don't have a lot of clients, you're looking to do this, picking up the phone, giving them a call, letting them know, hey, look, cost of business is going up. We're going to have to raise our rates. We super value you as a client. So we're keeping your rate below the rate of our new clients, but we are going to have to raise your rate. If you haven't raised your rate in several years, most clients are understanding and they all see that, especially in this day and age, the cost of living just continues to go up year after year after year.
Yeah.
So they get it. They may even respect you more for doing it. They might think, man, you're really on top of your game. That's sucks. My rate's going up, but I get it, and I respect you more as my attorney for doing that. Um, if you can't really call your clients or email them individually, explaining it in the letter as to why the rates are going up.
Yeah.
Again, people are understanding, and just laying it out and explaining it usually works really well. Um, Chelsea, how have you done this?
Yeah, we've done it a couple different ways. We kind of went like 3 years I think at the outset, or maybe it was like our first 6 months, and then after that we extended and didn't increase our rates for a while. But we started putting like heads up notices in all the billing for all active clients, like, hey, our rates will be changing, June 1st, and you'll receive a notice of all the information. Let us know if you have any questions. So it's kind of like a it's coming notice, because we do have, I think, like 200 20 clients. So to call them individually for us, it would be, very daunting. But for the active cases that are getting bills more regularly, giving them a heads up. And then we draft a letter and we say why we're raising our rates. We say, Hepner McGon has had a lot of expansion this year. We've added new employees to provide better service, as well as admin, that actually don't have any rates billed to them, but to help give the clients a good experience. And so, given all of this growth, we are going to be increasing our rates. And so we give them some context, and we kind of celebrate Hepner and Pagan when we're sending this letter. And I think what we don't have a problem doing, which some lawyers do, is we don't have a problem saying we're doing a good job. We know we're doing a good job. This is our service that we're providing. We're so excited about how much we're growing, and our rates are going to increase to reflect that, instead of like ooh, we're sorry, but we have to increase rates. And I think that comes off better for the clients. They feel like there's value. They're like, oh, rates are increasing. That makes sense, right? And so we've kind of crafted the letter, and it's similar every year, or we increase rates probably every 2 years, but it's very similar. But we do customize it, and sometimes we even call out individual employees or individual positions so that they really understand there's something unique. That's the strategy we've used.
I love that approach. And you probably do this too. One of the really interesting things you can do is when we talk about training the client, a lot of that can be done at the very beginning, in the first or second meeting after they've signed the engagement letter. But letting them know that, look, this is going to be a long-term relationship that we have, and just so you know, it's our firm's practice to raise our rates a little bit every year, because standard of living goes up, and so just want to let you know that's just something we do, and you're going to be seeing that. So setting that expectation up front really helps you train your clients. And then a letter like that, Chelsea, is fantastic because they get it, right?
Yeah, and I, I've not experienced a current client declining our services because our increased rate. Not one that I can remember. And maybe over time it's been like, hey, I think I'm going to go self-represented. It's just getting really expensive. But that happens all the time, depending on the particular circumstance, because not everybody has the money to keep seeing things out. But I've not experienced, a client saying, I just can't afford your rates. I need to find somebody more affordable. That's been our experience. And, with new clients, if it's a problem, we haven't necessarily heard about it. They don't balk on it on the call. We do document that, and we have our staff saying like, hey, if anybody objects to our hourly rate, I kind of want to know about it. I want to see if that happens often or not. And it just doesn't happen. If they are searching for a particular price, they're going to find a lawyer at that particular price, and that means they're probably not the client, that we wanted, if it's more about the hourly rate versus me as the lawyer.
Right. Because here's the truth. Price is not usually the most important factor.
Mm.
I know attorney entrepreneurs that are listening to this, you may disagree with that, but it's true. Because if price was the most important factor, they would all be going to terrible attorneys who charge, really, really low prices. Price is not the most important factor. What they're looking for is, they're looking for a high quality service through a high quality attorney who they can trust, that's going to solve their problem at a price point that they can afford. And if you can check those boxes and they really think you're their attorney, the price doesn't matter as much as you probably think it does.
Yeah. I mean, I have seen that that's the case, because I have had clients come from more expensive lawyers, more affordable lawyers. And knowing those lawyers, sometimes I'm always interested in why they are the prices they are for whatever reason, either good or bad, right? It's, wow, I feel like they're underpriced, or wow, I feel like that's very expensive. And at the end of the day, the client's going to pay what they feel like they can either afford, or they're going to pay more for the value that they think they're getting. And my kind of last piece of advice based on my experience on this is, you know, talk to colleagues, check the market, look at your expenses, look at your staff, your payroll, look at those numbers, and price yourself of what you think you're worth. And do not worry about whether or not clients think you're too expensive. Right? If
Yeah.
you're not getting clients consistently for that reason, then maybe you are, if you're charging $700 an hour in family law, right? But you sometimes just have to try it out, and you can slowly inch it up. If you're not sure, it is kind of a little bit of a trial, and we struggled with that. You know that we've struggled with increasing our rates over time, and we've never regretted doing it. We've always regretted waiting.
Absolutely. And you know what's funny is oftentimes when you raise your rate, you actually attract a better quality of client. So, our law firm success group's tagline, our coaching business tagline is more income, better clients, less stress.
Yeah.
You can actually achieve all three of those things by raising your rate. The more income is obvious, but better clients, if you charge more for your services, you are going to get better clients who are less of a pain in the butt typically, clients who really appreciate the value that you're charging, because if they wanted to get something cheaper, they could.
Yeah.
They are hiring you because they want higher quality services. So they tend to value your services more. That's why they're willing to pay more for it. So they'll be better clients. And that in turn usually translates to less stress, although maybe not in family law. It's really challenging, I know.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends. All right. Your pricing is a direct reflection of your value. If you're ready to charge what you're worth, visit lawfirmsuccessgroup.com to take the next step. If this helped you, please share it with any lawyers you know who are overdue for a raise for themselves. Like, follow, subscribe, and leave us a comment. We love hearing how you're building your boss life.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.